And we are live on the first shot. Hey guys, welcome to the Startup Tank Climate Investor Pitch Show. If this is your first time, I'm your host, Matt Ward, founding partner here at Forward VC in our early stage climate accelerator. To find out more about us and what we do, visit forward.vc, or just go to the Startup Tank, thestartuptank.com, where you can find out about the number one pitch show when it comes to climate sustainability and impact. We've got some incredible companies who are here to present today, which I'm sure most of you are well aware of. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe bell so that you don't miss a thing. If you're watching on LinkedIn or somewhere else, be sure to share. And if you're interested in pitching, we do this every 2 weeks at thestartuptank.com. You can apply. We take companies from pre-seed to pre-series A, and we put them through the shark tank, so to speak, of climate investors. Today, I've got an incredible panelist who's here with me. I'll bring them in now. First, the one and only Matt McGraw from Anthro VC. Matt, do you want to share a little bit more about you and what you're doing?
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt McGraw. I live in San Francisco. I have a fund called Anthropocene Ventures. We invest in pre and seed stage deep tech climate. By that, we mean anything that's science enabled and novel. Been doing it for 3 years, but before that, I was an entrepreneur. Been an entrepreneur my whole life, 30 years in the Bay Area. Had a couple big exits and thought I was retired, but they dragged me back in to do this. I never thought I'd be a VC, grow my horns, be on the evil side of the table. But here I am. Climate's different. It's important, and glad to be here.
And that's the hat. He's hiding the horns, guys.
Yes.
You want to share, Manuela, what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. So I'm an investor manager at Trellis Road, which is a fund investing in high impact and highly ambitious founders transforming the food system. So we invest in pre-seed and seed stage companies globally. They are really, solving real problems for people, planet, and animals. And they're very excited to be here today as well.
And we're super excited to have you. And Paul Claxton.
Hi, everyone. So Paul Claxton here. I am a venture capitalist in the AI space. We are looking to invest in pre-seed and seed stage companies in the US, focusing on IoT, SaaS, and healthcare sectors.
Awesome. And then as an overview for us, as I said, I run Forward VC in our early stage climate accelerator. We call it the partner in crime program because, especially when it comes to climate, you need a partner in crime. You need someone to help you get those pilots, that early traction, those early customers, et cetera. That's exactly what we do. We run the world's most hands-on and networked accelerator, so to speak, to help you get 2 to 5 plus new major customers, clients, pilots, some real traction, and go and raise a real round with a real business behind it. To find out more, visit forward.vc. Again, the number forward.vc. And if you're looking to fundraise, we've published our entire climate VC database. It's 950 plus funds, incubators, accelerators, and CVCs. You can filter by stage, sector, geography, and check size and find everyone in the climate ecosystem. You can get that at forward, the number forward.vc/VC database. And now, before we waste any more time kind of talking our own book, so to speak, I'd like to get things over to the part that really matters, the companies. So we've got 6 incredible companies who are going to present here. They'll get 5 minutes on the clock. We have a hard stop, and then our panelists will provide some feedback, and we'll see at the end of the night who the favorite of the companies for our investors are. They'll be crowned our climate startup of the night, and they'll win all of the glory and honor for all of the ages. We've got lots of investors tuning into this now, so good note for companies presenting. Generally speaking, the winning companies get somewhere like 5 to 10 investors reaching out cold and trying to set up some introductions. So now it's time for you guys to take it away. I think John, you said you'd be willing to go first, so why not hand the things over to Mr. John Ireland? Do you want to share a little bit more about NTP and how you guys are trying to change the fertilizer game?
Sure thing. Thanks everybody for having me. Thanks, Matt. So we have an 8 billion person problem, more food, more fertilizer, because we have so many people. Right now, we produce, synthetic fertilizer produces about 1 gigaton of CO2 equivalents on a yearly basis, or 1.5 to 3% of the global greenhouse gases in the world. My name is John Ireland. I'm the CEO of NTP Technologies. We use non-thermal plasma technology to deliver nitrates on site and on demand. Our nitrate generator is efficient, compact, and reliable. Our initial target markets are the forward-thinking farmers, which include vertical farms, hydroponic farms, organic farmers, and farmers that kind of produce crops 24/7, 365 days a year. It's important to note that without synthetic fertilizer, over half the population would starve. Nitrogen fertilizers account for 60% of the $200 billion worldwide fertilizer market. Enough of the chemistry. Synthetic fertilizer was developed in the 1920s using the Haber-Bosch process, converting natural gas and air into ammonia, precursors to synthetic fertilizers. But there are unintended consequences. Synthetic nitrogen fertilizers pollute our air, water, and soil to the tune of 1 gigaton of CO2 equivalents per year. Due to the rising cost of natural gas and the war in the Ukraine, farmers are concerned about price volatility and availability in addition to their typical worries. There was a better way. In 1910, Birkeland and I developed a process that generated electricity. It was used for several years until the Haber-Bosch process came along and could use cheap natural gas as opposed to electricity. NTP believes the way forward is by bringing that technology into the 21st century. Farmers' problems are a little bit more localized. Their concerns include price volatility, poor availability, product quality. Our solution is affordable, available on-site, controllable, reliable, easy to use, and has no salts and contaminant-free. And with renewable energy, produces 0 greenhouse gas emissions. How do we do this? We provide on-site production that is compact, efficient, reliable, and reproducible. Inputs are air and electricity. We produce lightning and mimic Mother Nature's way of fertilizing the planet. By ionizing the air, we preferentially produce nitrates over other minor reactive oxygenated compounds and create what we call nitrogen-enriched water. We bubble the air through the water in order to use water as a delivery mechanism. We have a microwave size product right now that produces for about 2 acres, and we're developing a refrigerator size for about 100 acres. The technology is designed to be scalable and modular. In terms of our market size, 200 billion, sorry about that, 200 billion, 120 billion in nitrogen, 18 billion in the US. Forward-thinking farmers is about 2.25. They include things like hydroponic, vertical markets, organic farmers, indoor, soil-based, and outdoor farms, less than 100 acres. Common traits are high velocity crops, 365 days a year. We have a plan for growth. After the forward-thinking farmers, we're looking at eco-conscious groundskeepers, golf courses, municipalities, college universities, eventually moving on to the large farms and row crops. Our intellectual property is basically simple: compressor, plasma core, and power supply in the smaller units. In terms of the next available size, we're looking to add a lot of additional technology, and we do have 4 provisional patents. In terms of the greenhouse gas effects, we produce, again, 1.1 gigaton per year of CO2, both production and application. Our next generation machines have an emissions reduction potential of about 50 metric tons of CO2 annually. We deliver organic, salt-free, on-site, consistent quality materials compared to synthetic and organic, which is available today. We do have
1 minute warning.
Thank you. We do have some other competitors, including a company called Nitricity, which just raised about $20 million. Stami Carbon does actual ammonia-based green ammonia, and Vital Fluid is out of the Netherlands. Here's a vertical farm using our machine. As you can see, the leaf color compared to our untreated crops was better and brighter, and the crops were also a little more sustainable. In terms of the economics, these are some of the economics we're looking at. The key points here are that we're producing in our next generation about 1,400 pounds a year at about $6 a pound for nitrogen, which compared to about $16 a pound for what we call bagged fertilizers. Our model is to rent machines and sell production. Somewhere in the towards the third year, we end up being cash flow positive. There's 3 of us currently co-founders, myself, Paul, and Brian. We're looking for a chief science officer, director of manufacturing. We have a couple of awards that we've won. One of the big ones is the Cleantech Open. We're actually in the top 6 in 2022 nationally. We're actually 2nd place in the Big Launch Challenge. In terms of
time is up.
Last slide too.
No worries. What are you raising? What are you asking for while I bring the other investors in?
The last slide. So we raised about 175,000 in friends and family, as well as some awards that we won. We're looking at $650,000, which gets us the next generation machine, and continue pilot testing. We get to engage our universities. We get to launch our next generation machine. We know we're going to need follow-on funding of about $3 million.
Awesome. Then I'll let Manuela kick things off with questions. Thanks for presenting, John.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Matt. My two first questions. The first one is about the energy needs for your, machinery compared to your competitors. And then the second one, you mentioned that you have 4 current patents ongoing or provisional patents, and I'll be curious to learn a bit more about what part of the process do they protect?
Sure. So in terms of the energy usage, right now the small machines use about 0.2 kilowatt hours, which is pretty small. It's not a lot of consumption. We actually, in terms of our economics, we use about 20 cents per kilowatt hours the cost. However, as you know, you go to solar panels, which we prefer you actually use, and renewable energy, we're down to about 6 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour. The next generation machine uses about 0.8. So we go up about 4x in terms of the generate consumption. However, our next generation machine goes up about 50x in terms of production. And that has to do with a lot of efficiencies you actually build into the energy consumption. In terms of the patents, there's 3 basic areas that we have that we can focus on patents. One is the actual machine itself and developing the machine. We license our technology at this point in time. The people that we're licensing it from with an exclusive license in agriculture for worldwide use. They're willing to actually develop a patent on the core technology today. They just never applied. But our additional patents include things like nanobubble technology, gas separation, recycle loops, oxygen concentration, how these all fit together in terms of the machine itself. Then we have the application. Every farm is a little different. Applying this technology into the field is going to require a lot of innovation, not a lot, but enough innovation that we probably can get some patents around it. And then we also have formulas. So using a salt-free nitrogen-based base for a fertilizer can be developed into patentable formulas.
And then just last question to make sure that I got it right. The go-to-market strategy started with vertical farming, but you mentioned at some point as well, I think golf areas or other fields. Is that can you just explain?
Sure. So think of it this way: we're looking at the initial market being the vertical farms, hydroponic farms, people that grow all year round, not necessarily people that go out and plant for 3 months, because our production is all year round. We're not looking to build up and store production and then sell it like during, seasonally. We're looking at selling a machine or renting a machine on site that you're producing all the nitrogen you need on site. So the economics work a lot better, obviously, if you're using it all year round as opposed to only part time of the year. So when you start taking a look at the initial market, again, is more food related in terms of leafy greens, vertical markets. The next one's more turf related, because one of the other problems we have is that we put a lot of fertilizer on our lawns and our any green space that's out there, parks, university, colleges, etc. They put a lot of fertilizer down. A lot of that gets run off. There's a lot of waste associated with it. So we see us being sort of part of that turf business, and there's a lot of turf in the world.
And investors, feel free to jump in with any questions you got. No need to raise the hands.
Okay, great. I've got a question, John. Great problem solution. No, it's a big issue. We've looked at a couple folks that would be competitors to you, but not directly, like Intricity. I want to talk about competition. So everybody's going to put themselves up into the right in that quadrant, right? But what does your competition do better than you right now? And what are you going to do about it? And what are the other kinds of competition besides direct competitors with alternative processes like regenerative farming or like waste to value biomass companies that produce organic fertilizer and organic pesticide replacements?
Sure. You want me to brag about my competitors? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
So first of all, I will say that we are 100% for regenerative farming. Soil-based health, everything. We look at it sort of like the fossil fuel business and renewable fuels. There is no one solution. You have solar, you have wind, you have geothermal. Same thing with the fertilizer market. There's going to be dozens and dozens of different types of technologies that people are going to use based upon where they are, the location they are in, how they can actually apply this material, what's more economical for them, what are their local resources. And then, of course, when it comes down to the farming, you've got weather, land, local markets, all these things come into play. So we see there's a lot of different technologies that are going to be used in order to combat the use of synthetic fertilizer. A lot of the big fertilizer companies understand that, are sort of seeing it the same way the big oil companies did, are starting to move into the space a little bit. You're going to see these things happening. We want to be part of the solution, a tool in the toolbox, again, we think we're best suited for the vertical farms, mostly because we're on site, on demand. So in other words, our cost might be a little higher on a per pound basis, but I can use this as a direct input into my system, as opposed to having to buy, transport, store material, etc. We also see it being directly integrated into systems. So take vertical farms, for example, that's a closed loop system. As a closed loop system, you're adding, say, calcium nitrate, which is what Nitricity is actually producing. They're actually switched their model to produce a calcium nitrate 1800. That's actually going to be used in the vertical farm. However, closed loop means that as nitrogen is used preferentially over calcium, you have calcium buildup over time. Your tables have to be then dropped, and restarted all over again. Whereas our material, you can add the calcium nitrate to start with, but then as the nitrogen's used, we're adding direct nitrogen molecules directly to the system in a machine that's actually producing it on site. That allows them to keep up with the nitrogen usage without having calcium buildup in the system, and therefore not having to turn the tables over.
Gotcha.
We do have
Thanks.
I'm gonna be a politician and lead in on that. So we do have 4 pilots that are actually going on right now. 2 of our pilots that are vertical farms. 2 of them are just started at the on the outdoor kind of growing. We keep telling the outdoor guys we're probably not ready for them yet, but they want to test some of these alternatives. The indoors, one of the pilots ended up, you saw one of the pilots. The other one said they had a 20% reduction in fertilizer use and a 20% reduction in what they call pH down, which is something they use to keep the pH in the system down.
Cool, great.
And those other guys are great. Okay. I had to brag, right? So I think, look, again, they're doing great jobs. I'm all for them. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. Here's another example. I talked to a guy, there was a guy in a paper a couple of months ago that said, I've done regenerative farming now for 5 years. I've reduced my nitrogen requirements by 25%. Well, that's great. What about the other 75%?
Hey, one of the reasons I got into climate is this is not a winner all takes business. I like that about it. So
yes, that is true.
Talking a bit about competition again, something that I'm curious of is like the format that you offer your product in. I understand it's like nitrates, so it's not with calcium, but I still understand that for some players, having it in like ammonia or powder format can be more advantageous, so that you can spread it in different areas that do not need the same type of irrigation system that you would in a closed loop system, as just you're talking about the vertical farming. Will you at some point envision changing this format, or is it just like 2 very different markets and you're targeting something which is indeed different than those other players are?
Well, you're definitely moving from something that's easier, like you talk about market penetration, vertical farms, hydroponics, they're a little easier for us to penetrate. When you start getting into outdoors, you start talking pivot sprayers and overhead irrigation. By the way, pivot sprayers and irrigation systems are designed about 100 acres at a time. So if you have 1,000 acres, you usually have 10 systems that are going on. With that being said, our next size machine kind of fits well with that. When you start getting into the larger ones that want ammonia, that want other types of fertilizers because they find them easy. Yeah, we're going to have to start taking a look at that. We talked to a company called, I'll give them a little plug, Guardian Ag. They actually have drones. They have drones that can carry 40 pounds or 40 gallons of material that they can then go spray these crops. So there are the same way like solar, all of a sudden, why is solar doing well? It doesn't have to do with the fact that solar panels are getting so much more efficient. It's that people have found ways to, instead of take 3 days to put solar panels on a house, it takes them 3 hours. Those types of technologies and innovations are going to start to happen as people start adapting this type of technologies, seeing that it works, seeing that it's going to go into a slightly different market. You'll have people innovating in that market to actually apply it differently. I will say that right now, I talked to the farmer who does big corn. He puts down something like 45 pounds of nitrogen at the beginning of the season, and 6 weeks later puts down 105 pounds of nitrogen after that on 1 acre of land. The problem is that he can't actually put it down as we want to, which is sort of like microdosing. And the reason he can't is because of labor, because of cost, because he can't actually apply that. But he also knows that he probably has 50% waste. But he's also okay with that because that's the only way to get his crop the yield that he needs off his crop. So we have to come up with alternatives for him to reduce his waste and also be economical. And that's our goals.
One big challenge on that is you've got to have a drip irrigation system built in so you can, as you said, kind of microdose that. What percentage of farms would actually be able to take advantage of what you're creating, and how much effort is it going to be for them to switch?
Okay, so I would say that in terms of the drip systems, it doesn't necessarily have to be. A lot of times people use drip systems because they don't want to spray fertilizer directly onto plants because it hurts the plants. However, our material, since it's just a nitrate, there are no salts, you can actually use it as a foliar spray all day long. So you don't necessarily need drip irrigation. However, I will say drip irrigation is much more beneficial because it is direct, providing the fertilizer directly to the roots as opposed to the dirt around it where it gets washed away during the rain. Okay. In terms of adaptation, we've got great designs when it comes to the indoor hydroponics, because they're currently, say, oxygenating their tables. Therefore, we can tie directly into their oxygenation systems and adapt that way. When you get to the irrigation systems, they usually have a central pump system that's bringing the water in. We can tie directly into that central pump station and actually provide the nitrates every time they water. So every time you're out there watering, some people do it 2-3 times a week, you'd actually be providing the nitrogen at that particular point in time. The ones that we don't really focus on are the ones that put down a whole ton of fertilizer at the beginning of the year, plant the crops, and then say, nature, take it away, and we'll go harvest in 100 days. That we don't really focus on because I don't think they're willing to adopt our technology or really much technology. I also think that they're further down the path in terms of what we can actually apply. And in terms of the market share, like you said, how big it is, like I said, future forward-thinking farmers are about 25% of the small farms in the United States, which is a $2 billion fertilizer market. So that might give you an idea. I'd also like to say, just to kind of go a little bit further on that, is that ultimately, we'd love to be able to take our machines 100 acres at a time and supplant them in third world countries and provide solar panel to them and then fertilize, countries that have farmers that are farming 2 to 5 acres at a time. We'd be able to actually supply them their fertilizer. Right now, those countries are having a lot harder time than the US is in terms of getting fertilizer because we just have a tendency to pay more.
Yeah, that is a challenge. Any last questions, Paul, Matt, Manuela?
I'm good.
I do have a question. So your main channel to market is through licensing, correct?
We are currently licensing the technology, correct. And then we're adding technology around that core proprietary technology. So
are you licensing that direct to the users, the customers?
No,
or are they reselling it?
No, we are licensing it from them to actually develop the machines. The licensing companies actually builds power supplies and plasma cores, which is what we're licensing in ag. We'll be purchasing those, but designing our own systems around those 2 core components.
Okay, so that brings to mind a question. Anytime you're looking at licensing from a supply chain perspective, what is your quality control model? How are you addressing that?
Yeah, and that's the reason why we're at the beginning, especially we're looking at contract manufacturing to actually build these things for ourselves. They'll have quality control actually built in. So that gives us the ability to then tailor that to our needs in terms of quality control. I will say sensors are one of the things that we're going to be looking at intently, because being able to sense not only what's in the soil or in a hydroponics table to a degree of accuracy, so we know how much to apply, becomes quite important. And we've been talking to a whole bunch of different sensor companies that are out there that are developing new technologies for that. In the olden days, like yesterday, they used EC, which is electrical connectivity. That becomes a little bit of a challenge since we don't have salts. You need salt to get electrical connectivity in a system.
Thank you.
Awesome, John. Then thanks for presenting. I would hand things over to our next company of the night. We might as well go a full opposite direction. Tomar, you
want to say thank you to everybody. I appreciate the time.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks. Thanks as well, John.
Thank you.
Take care.
You want to take things away, Tomar, and tell us about BaTTeRi Energy?
Yes, thanks. So I'll share my screen. Just a sec.
I met Tomar through Exion, one of the companies we invested in with Forward VC and our syndicate prior to converting into an accelerator model. And they're doing some interesting stuff in the EV and battery space. You ready, Tomar?
Yeah. So you
Awesome.
can see my
Take
screen.
it away. Yeah, your 5 minutes starts now.
Thank you very much. So we are BaTTeRi. Our main focus is to make EV charging accessible, simple, and seamless to every car owner around the world. Today, there's a lack of public infrastructure for charging. The EU, in the report for 2030, has designed a system that says that there will need one public charger for every 10 EVs on the market. Today, we can see that Norway, when the adaptation of electric vehicle is the most highest in the world, 20% of the private vehicles there are already electric, are in 1 to 26. So everywhere in the world, the infrastructure lags behind. You can see Biden's act on increasing the infrastructure for charging, and everything we can do to increase the number of EVs that will go on the road will always be higher than the number of chargers that we can add. And the reason for that is we have very low utilizations of public charging. If you put chargers in an office building, somebody will come into work in the morning, connect to the charger. Of course, he needs to find it. He needs to, in Europe, you need to bring your own cable, connect it to the charger, connect yourself to the cable. And then after 2 or 3 hours, the charger will finish charging the car. The car stays there for the end of the day. And at nighttime, nobody uses the charger because it's an office building. So the utilization is very low. The adaptation of putting a lot of chargers in office buildings and in public places is very low because the infrastructure costs a lot of money, and you need to upgrade your electric grid connection every time you add more and more chargers. So we thought what we can do. We need to make these chargers faster. Today in Europe, you can see 11 kilowatt hour chargers, and in the US, 7 or 9 kilowatt hour chargers. So we want to make them faster. 30 to 40 kilowatt chargers, DC rapid, for multiple cars, not to be stuck behind one car every time, to move from car to car after they finish. They can take and consume energy, store energy at a low energy demand on the grid. Well, at nighttime in an office building, nobody consumes energy. So if you can store this energy at nighttime and then use it during daytime, you can lower the peak demand during the whole day. If you can use solar, we can use it without plugging into the grid because we use DC power and we can connect it directly to your solar. And our main idea is to eliminate the capex need from the real estate owner, from the shopping center owner, from the mall, to invest a lot of capex in putting infrastructure that is low utilized. How we do it? We developed a system, a zero infrastructure method. It's based on our proprietary charging robot that we developed. This is Thomas. Thomas is an autonomous automatic mobile charging unit. It is high utilized. It moves from car to car after it finished charging. It charges at a 45 kilowatt hour rate. It's a mobile storage unit. It has almost 60 kilowatt hours of electric storage on board that it can charge a vehicle. And then after he finished all the energy on top of him, he can move back to his docking station autonomously and charge up again and go supply more electricity at every parking spot in any place in the garage. It does demand management. Okay, our system does demand management, so we can shave and reduce the peak demand during the day. We are now have a full-scale working prototype that we already issued and shot a nice video that you can see on our LinkedIn page. We are working on an autonomous unit that it will be upcoming in the next year. And the final version will be also with wireless charging because of our special design that sits under the car. Our working model is B2B or B2B2C. We want to be a provider for charging operators. We want to supply them with these robots so they can supply services in parking lots where they are working. Our business plan is to start this year and to grow the number of Thomases each year and to develop facilities for manufacturing and assembly in each country that in each main continent that we're working in. Okay, sorry. And we are raising $5 million.
Raising $5 million. While I bring some of the other investors in, robotics and hardware are hard. And then when it's moving, it's even harder. And then there's cars, which makes it harder. So how do you deal with all the hards here?
So I didn't present our team, but our team, our CTO is a veteran of the Israeli Ministry of Defense technology team. He already had autonomous moving vehicles on a not so kind roads in 2007. So a parking lot, it's much easier to maneuver around than on street because you can drive slower. It's 4 to 5 miles per hour. And you can stop when you see an object in front of you. So if you see somebody who's walking, you can stop. They will continue walking. It's not like a street when you can be stuck in a crossroad that everybody's walking or cars are maneuvering. A parking lot, it's moving, it's alive, but it's not alive like a street. So we will be using lidars and cameras to do safety.
How long does it take to actually charge just your average car?
So our main focus is to charge parking lots of office buildings, apartment buildings, or places like this. If you come to work or you come to your apartment building every day, the average miles per day that an American does, it's 50 miles a day. So it's something between 12 to 17 kilowatt hours you will need to recharge every day. So it's between 15 to 20 minutes, it would be over for the charge and we can move to the other car.
Awesome. Do you guys want to take things away then? I'll hand it over so you guys can ask some questions.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Absolutely a problem today. I have an EV. I experience this all the time, and everybody that I know that owns one. So the problem solution is for sure. I've got a question about durability of that solution. What do you think could change systemically in the world to make your solution not needed? And do you think it's going to happen? I actually can see a world where you become a huge player in this because I believe in autonomous robots. You're right that planned environments like a parking lot, easy breezy for autonomous vehicles. The load balancing thing is a really strong argument for your business. But I worry that in 10 years, we're going to have ubiquitous charging everywhere and your solution won't be needed anymore. So what do you say to that?
So I have a few things. Let's start with the grid. The grid will need to be buffered. So we are suggesting to buffer the grid. Yeah, it depends on the adoption. In apartment buildings that were built in the last 50 years, you will need a lot of energy to accumulate and then flow around. And because we are using DC, we store energy at DC and then charge your vehicle DC. So we don't move from AC to DC and then back to AC. Every move from AC to DC, you lose between 8 to 10%. And I think that you don't need a low utilized infrastructure anywhere. I used to work for the crude oil business and infrastructure for the bad guys. And you don't build infrastructure for 10% utilization. The only infrastructure that you build for 10% utilization is roads. This is the only one. So if you put a charger at your parking spot at your apartment building, you will only use it for 2 or 3 hours a day. And that's it. So we think that our idea is a solution for the whole market, but it's a scalable solution. It's fast to deploy, and it can be the best solution that you will use because it's faster, it's easier, it can do demand management and storage. So I don't see, and we are talking about doing wireless because the shape of our robot, we can do also wireless in the future. So we are wireless, we are future-proof, not like an infrastructure that you put on the wall today and you don't know what will be in 3 or 4 years.
It's a pretty good argument, that last one right there. Okay. Fair, thanks.
Talking about the durability of the solution, just one quick question on the durability of the battery that you're developing. Like how often does it need to be changed? Yeah. So and how much do you envision that a robot costing when it achieves its exactly the ideal price?
Yeah. So the battery technology is LFP. So it's more suitable for storage. And we are also open, this is how I met Matt, we are also open for new kind of batteries that are not suitable for the EVs, because EVs want the lightest battery with the most energy dense. We don't care about the lightest battery because we don't move these kind of distances. And today, the LFP batteries can do between 4,000 to 5,000 cycles, and we are talking about between 3 to 4 cycles a day. So we are looking between 4 or 5 years for each battery pack to be working. I don't know that if the battery pack is down to 70%, I don't know to tell you that I will throw the robot, because you can add another one and use it for 70%, but so it's durable. We are open for new innovation of batteries, and we can change as the market grow. And every continent or every country that we are working, we can be working with different kind of chemistry of batteries depending on the country and the battery prices in every place. Today, most of the storage has been done with LFP.
This might sound like a dumb question, but if you're using wireless, then do you have to have the robot at all? I feel like you could pull a car over the parking slots, have a little line of wires that go through there, and wirelessly charge all the cars just based off of the number of cars that were there without this whole moving contraption deal.
Yeah, a wireless charger today costs a lot of money, but if you speak to some of the companies, a normal transmitter will be around $1,500 per unit, and you would need to put it in every parking spot in the parking lot. It's not movable. It's like a normal charger that instead of the electric line, you have the transmitter, the wireless transmitter. So you will need to supply them to every charging spot.
What are the current costs?
You got to worry about regulation too when you're building something like that too. Getting it done in a city is going to be hard. I'd rather have robots.
What price point for human labor do you need for it to be cheaper to do with robots than to just have some guy or girl walk over, roll a little battery and plug it in, to be honest?
I don't know for the labor cost, but the robot weighs 500 kilograms. I don't know the numbers in the US, but it's 500 kilograms. So it's not been able to move with a person. And the minute it's autonomous, it can charge between 10 to 15 cars a day in an office building. So it's very fast, very reliable. You can decide that if you are coming to only a meeting of an hour and a half and you're in a rush, you can say, hey, I'm here only for an hour or something. Please charge me fast. And the robot will leave his post for, I don't know, somebody that stays until the afternoon and move to you. So yeah, I think it's a better solution today than a man with a cart and some batteries on it.
Is it a better solution when you have an office building and you need like 100 of these? And so, then you have a very full parking lot of robots?
Yes, because it's a scalable solution. So you can, 100 cars will need eight to 9 robots. So every 100 cars that you'll bring more and more robots. Not everybody, 60% of the Western car owners will have an off-street parking space. So most of them will have the ability to charge at home if they have a charger or in an apartment building that we will be working in. So not all of the parking lot of an office building, not all of the parking lot of a mall will need charging. We need special areas, but not like today when you need to come and find a special place where the charger and connect to the app and everything.
And what are the risks today that you see with the technology? Like especially if you see a robot, that it can charge wirelessly, and you have a kid coming out of the parking lot or something, and it's very hard to claim the responsibility if there's so you got the type of scenario.
Yeah. So for the movement of the robot will have special sensors and everything, that it will be also connected to a command center from other place. So if he gets to a place that he's stuck and doesn't know what to do, we can control it from afar. The wireless charger is a very special. There's standardization for wireless EV charging. It also started working in Europe, in Oslo and other places. So the transmitter needs to sit directly beneath the car. It's not like your iPhone when you put it and then it gets hot. It doesn't get hot. It's very, very fast. So it works only when it recognizes the receiver and it's 100% beneath him. Then it only will start to share energy. Of course, you don't want to put your hand inside. It's not. It's likely to do harm, but when you sit under the car, nobody will be there. So,
is it more complicated to move the robot to the car, or to have a docking station with like 8 cars or 4 cars, etc.? And then in the future, all cars will have some type of autonomy built in. They charge themselves and move themselves away.
Of course, if all cars would have autonomous movement and you can move the cars and the charger would be 1 or 2 chargers and the cars would move, it will be a solution. But this week last week I saw Mobileye said that the autonomous vehicle will be in 2050. So I think we'll have some time until then.
Okay. Paul, Matt, Manuela, any other questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Awesome. Tomer, then thanks for presenting.
Thank you very much.
And thanks everybody who's been tuning into this. If you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe bell on YouTube, or you can find us on all your major podcasting platforms, just thestartuptank.com for more details. If you want to apply, we do this every 2 weeks. We bring on 6 awesome pre-seed to pre-series A climate companies who are changing the world. And we consider you as well for our Forward VC, our partner in crime climate accelerator. All that and more at thestartuptank.com. And if you go to forward.vc, we've got a climate VC and a climate founders Slack communities you can join. Something like 1,600, 1,700 members in there. Great place to network and meet other players in the space. And we've done a bit on the ag tech, a bit on the charging. How about we go into consumer, which we normally don't touch too much. Anisha, you want to share a little bit more about Ripplfect and what you guys are doing and how you're trying to create the sustainable consumption of tomorrow?
Absolutely. And I'm actually going to point it over to my co-founder, Sarah, to walk you through our pitch.
Hi,
Awesome.
everyone.
Then Sarah, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Let me share my screen. All right. Can everyone see this okay?
You are good to go. Your 5 minutes starts now.
All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm the co-founder of Ripplfect. People are surprised to learn we already have the solutions we need to solve the climate crisis. More businesses than ever have incorporated climate solutions into their business model, And leading brands are spending millions to re-engineer their products to create sustainable product lines. Hitting ESG benchmarks is no longer just a CSR issue. It's a business imperative. Yet despite increased demand from the market, these solutions aren't reaching eco-conscious consumers. Over 50% of individuals don't know what sustainability commitments brands have made due to limited targeting, growing customer acquisition costs, and a lack of trust in sustainability claims on traditional platforms. We've talked to hundreds of CEOs and head of marketing at these companies who all say they're looking for alternative ways to reach and influence their target demographic. This translates to sustainable businesses missing out on $1.2 trillion from their target demographic, eco-conscious consumers. Ripplfect helps sustainable businesses directly reach and convert eco-conscious consumers. We centralize climate solutions users can trust, charging organizations to host their offering as actions on our community-based platform. We are the first platform to track, verify, and reward individuals for their impact. We use geolocation, image recognition, and link tracking to verify actions. They can use their points to redeem discounts, freebies, donations, and eventually cashback, amplifying engagement and retention. Organizations can also host week or month-long challenges on the platform, making progress towards ESG goals while building trust with their consumers through collective action. For example, Impossible Foods can host a Vegan for a Week challenge, expanding brand awareness while simultaneously increasing loyalty and brand recall. Through our small MVP and beta tests, we've acquired a community of almost 10,000 individuals and have seen an engagement rate of 65%. The actions we have driven have resulted in an average of 4,050 tons per capita per year of CO2 eliminated. We have 30 plus paid partnerships in green finance, solar, sustainable retail, and more. We've also had interest from organizations like Pinterest, Cornell, and the UN to access a backend platform to mobilize their students and employees to take action through lock teams. Today, we charge businesses either on a cost per click or CPA basis to list their sustainable offering as an action on the app. We also charge $5K to $100K for organizations to host challenges depending on the duration of the campaign and the number of users on the platform. In the future, Ripplfect's business model will expand to monthly and annual contracts with organizations who are looking to measure and track impact towards ESG goals with the Ripplfect backend. We have key organic acquisition strategies for a successful market entry. A month before launch on Earth Day, we'll put signage up in over 100 high traffic businesses where individuals can get points for sustainable actions they already take, like bring your reusable bag to a grocery store. Post-launch, we'll activate integrations with large organizations that have shown interest in embedding climate action directly into their website, driving visibility across millions of website visitors. We have the expertise to be able to execute on our vision. As a sophomore in college, I moved across the country and did close to 1 million in sales for a solar company. I talked to thousands of individuals door to door, understanding what factors got them to make the switch to renewables. Alongside sales, I'm a marketing expert scaling marketing strategies for Fortune 500 companies. Anisha has experience working on product and growth, having worked as a product manager at Google, focused specifically on climate change solutions.
1 minute.
She's led products that have scaled to over 600 cities around the world, working closely with global organizations and city and state governments on climate solutions, connecting with world leaders at the UN. Finally, Manik Gupta, Ripplfect CTO, is a successful serial entrepreneur with over 12 plus years of full stack development experience. He has led engineering teams for 3 successful ventures. One of them is a cashback rewards app based in Dubai. With the conclusion of our MVP, we are looking to raise a pre-seed round early 2023 so we can hire key team members to propel our product development and sustainable partnership growth. This is just the beginning of consumers waking up to the urgency of the climate crisis. In the coming years, sustainability will be an integral part of a thriving business across all industries. Creating a sustainable future is not something any one organization can achieve alone. But with Ripplfect's global community of individual and businesses, we can drive climate action at all levels and spark a ripple
Time is
effect.
up. Awesome. That was a great pitch. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to pull the other investors in. While I am quick double take. So did you say 4,000 tons of CO2 per user is what you guys were mitigating?
Oh no, not per user.
I
here.
thought it was
can
per
go back
I
to
thought it
it.
was per capita or per user.
No, so per year per capita. And that's just based on what we've done so far. And so we use count us in and drawdown methodology to calculate that.
Okay, that makes more sense. I thought you were saying you'd done 40 million tons already.
Oh my, no, I wish.
Mhm. Would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Matt, you want to kick off the questions?
Sure. I spent 30 years in digital and helped some of the biggest companies in the digital space scale from pre-seed to seed or pre-seed to exit. So I've seen this story a lot. It's really hard to capture your market and compete. And I guess, what's your moat? I have an opinion about what moats are in the digital space, which there are none.
Right.
It's really brand and really execution.
100%.
So tell me what you're going to do to prevent the 5,000 other companies that are going to try to do exactly what you're doing, because there's definitely going to be a lot of competition out there.
Yes. And I'll kind of address the competition question first, and then I'll talk about our moat and kind of how we differentiate ourselves.
Great idea. I will download this today and if I can and use.
Awesome. Yeah. So, we're not alone in seeing the opportunity in this space. I think you guys have probably seen similar companies. Juro is kind of the biggest player in terms that they've raised outside capital. Juro charges users to offset their emissions, while we are free for the end user. And instead of, rewarding users for their impact, like we do, like I said, they charge the end user. And we've seen that existing climate apps and solutions kind of lack specificity in their actions. So they have like vague, untraceable actions around, like, for example, taking a shorter shower that someone can later self-report on. So where we really differentiate ourselves is we're providing extremely specific and trackable actions that someone can take. So like, for example, an action on our app is bring your old jeans to Madewell for their return program. And users can then take a picture at Madewell, so when they're physically there and their geolocation is there, of the jeans that they brought, and we can prove that they've taken that action. So this means that we can give you points in exchange for rewards while helping Madewell hit their sustainability goals. So what we've seen is a lot of the existing players, they don't have a mechanism to prove that an action has been taken, which essentially makes it worthless to businesses and individuals. Right. So I think that's like a key differentiator to the other players that we have seen in this space. Obviously, I mean, that's not necessarily a moat, right? The moat really comes in with our brand, right? And we've already started experimenting on social channels. Like we got 6 million views on a TikTok on like how to recycle a pizza box, right? So we're really trying to establish ourselves as a leader in this space. And I think, to your point, that is how you build the moat. And then once you have that impact on the platform, people aren't going to want to switch to another platform that they've already, built up their points. They have rewards, 100%. So.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
You mentioned something about having the potential for CO2 emission reduction, if I understand it correctly, or I don't know exactly how I calculated, but while at the same time you referred to something about like actions that they would have done otherwise. So how do you make sure that you're not, double counting in there for someone who would already anyway, for instance, bring their tote bag to the supermarket or recycle the jeans and etc. So how do you make at the same time people more engaged and just make sure that you are not addressing the same customers that would otherwise be doing the same behavior anyway?
Right. And so that's a great question. And I think really we're trying to find consumers where they are. So I think everyone, even if they don't realize it, does something sustainable, whether that be like shopping secondhand, whether that be bringing their reusable bag. So it's how do we get them in on those actions that they're already taking and convert them on other actions. So like when it comes to different actions we could provide, we're talking to solar providers. So obviously like getting solar on your roof, if you haven't had it before, that is a clear indication that we have driven that action through our platform. Same thing with, for example, like signing up for a composting program. Some of those more repeatable ones, we won't necessarily, like companies won't be able to count that towards their ESG metrics. And I think we're still kind of like refining exactly like what that looks like. But it's super important that we get people on our platform based on like finding them where they are and what they're already doing, and then converting them on those other actions. So we try to make it an inclusive platform in that way.
What's your NPS score and virality coefficient?
Yeah, so currently our NPS score is about 80%, based on a survey that we sent out to our beta testers.
And what about like a viral coefficient? How many people are inviting their friends? How many of the friends? Like for every user, how many users do you get?
Yeah. So we've seen a 25% of our customers, when they sign up, we have like a, how did you hear about us? And they said that they heard about us through a friend. I think it is important to note that we have tried to keep our MVP, like we haven't necessarily been advertising for it. We've used it more for qualitative research to conduct user interviews, because we focus on one specific action. And obviously our full launch, which is going to go live in April for Earth Month, will have all different sustainable actions or climate actions that you could take.
Do you have any local versus global issues where there's tons of great options in Seattle and then you're in Detroit and there's Jack or something? Like,
Yes.
how do you handle that? So some things are obviously bring your cup to work kind of deal or whatever,
Right.
but other things may be more challenging.
Definitely. And I think how we're looking at this is we really want to build an atomic network, because that's how these like consumer facing apps really take off. And so we're starting in New York City. We've looked for partnerships specifically in that area. We'll focus on growing our atomic network there. Once we've kind of figured out the formula, we'll then rinse and repeat in different cities. But of course, there are going to be actions that you can take from any place in the US, not just in New York City.
And how do you ensure that your users are coming back to the product? Do you know already the retention ratio that you have?
Yeah. So our MAU right now is at 20%. And really, and that is actually great considering we're focusing on one specific action that some people only take once a month. So we're interested to see how that kind of changes when we launch the full version of the product in April. And I think the main from talking to users, what brings people back is a few things, right? Depending on the user persona. So we have some people coming back for the gamification aspect. Like I had one user who said, I cannot let someone pass me on the leaderboard. We've had some users come back just specifically for the rewards. And then we have others that really like seeing their impact go up on their profile. So I think it kind of depends on the user. And we want to make sure too, this is something that I should note, that we have rewards for any type of user, including people motivated by intrinsic factors. So for example, you might be able to get like a discount or a freebie, or you might be able to donate your entire like $5, $10, whatever it is, to a nonprofit organization in the climate space.
If you don't have the intrinsic motivation, does it possibly just encourage more consumption?
So we're being very careful about the type of rewards that we offer and who we're partnering with. So I know I had kind of mentioned some of our partners. We're partnering with B Corps, and really we're only looking to encourage people to purchase products that they would already from a more sustainable option, right? So an example of that might be like toothpaste bits, right? So the freebie might be you get toothpaste bits, and we're transitioning you from using that over a plastic tube of toothpaste. So I think we're being very intentional about not promoting overconsumption and how we're rewarding users, but it's very important that we are activating any type of user persona. And so the rewards kind of play into that and play into people building that behavior. So.
And let's say the ideal scenario that, everyone starts using the app, how do you see the company in like 5 years time? What happened then?
Yeah. So in 5 years time, our goal is to go international. So we really see this being a solution no matter where you are. And we think that is kind of the most powerful message, and also not just activating on an individual level, But on a corporate level, like we really see that, and I kind of touched on it, but we've had interest in like our SaaS platform and actually hosting actions on these like website and existing platforms that get millions of users, right? So it's about, giving these corporations a way to engage with individuals and recognizing that, corporations and organizations can't hit their sustainability goals without this activation, without users, taking action. So really in the future, we see this being an international scalable company, and we see, us activating actions on all different levels, not just on the individual level.
If it fails, why will it be?
So I think like if we're not able to, cultivate that community, like I talked about, how to recycle your pizza box. If we're not able to establish ourselves as that thought leader in the industry, I think that will make it extremely hard for us to scale. I think that would essentially be the reason why we weren't able to succeed.
Any last questions, folks?
No,
Who's
what's
this-
the- I'm sorry.
No, you're good, Manuela. Who's the CEO when it comes down to it at the end of the day? Who makes the decision?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm the CEO, but I think we're both very involved in decision making. In terms of split, it's 50-50. So
Okay. Awesome. Well, looks like this.
So in terms of like kind of your business model and what you're doing, you mentioned TikTok a few times, different social media channels. There are companies out there in kind of this sustainability, clean, kind of clean consumer products. Say, for example, Melaleuca. I don't know if you've heard of them. But in terms of like kind of brand ambassadors, have you explored that as an approach where, you have people that are already kind of selling products and advocating, adamant about this particular effort, in terms of sustainability, ESG, so forth. Have you thought about that approach where there may already be people doing this with companies, say, for example, like Melaleuca, where they're running their own business through an existing brand?
So the question is activating like champions within our partnerships.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, 100%. So, for example, like one of our partners is Dip and their plastic-free shampoo. And she was so excited when I told her what we're working on that she sent out an email to everyone telling them to download our MVP. So I think in terms of like in getting partnerships, like we've secured partnerships with some of the top names in sustainability who are B Corps and are well known, and they've all been so excited about what we're doing. And so I think that applies to both the user and the partnership level, where even like, for example, nonprofits, like one of our partners is Surfrider Massachusetts, and they have been so excited and are, once we launch in April, are willing to blast it out to all of their user base. So I think, like, to your point, those strategic partnerships where we're kind of amplifying the work that they're already doing will definitely play into our go-to-market strategy. And that applies, like I said, to both the user and the on a partnership level, because we definitely have some users that are so excited that they're like, I want to pitch like my own shop, or I know someone that could do this. So definitely plan to utilize that, and universities as well too. We've been talking with NYU, and we are definitely looking to utilize like student ambassadors. So
it sounds super interesting. Any last questions, folks?
well, thank you everyone for taking the time.
Sarah, Anisha, thanks so much for sharing. Thanks for presenting. And I hope that you guys make it. I think there are a lot of challenges because there are a lot of players in the space, but there's also an incredible opportunity here. And we've kind of been all over it. Let's hop in the ocean and talk. Let's talk carbon credits, and better yet, carbon capture. Ben, do you want to take things away and share a little bit more with what you guys are doing with Oceanid MRV? I'm not really sure the best way to pronounce that.
Oceanid, yeah.
Oceanid.
Thank you. Yes.
Let me make you our go-to presenter, and you should be able to share your screen and take it away.
All right. Let's see. Do you guys have me?
Looks good.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody. So my name is Ben Swainbank, and I am the founder and president of Oceanid MRV. And yeah, we work in marine carbon dioxide removal. And so we work with companies that are using the powers of the ocean to extract carbon dioxide from the air at scale. And we offering them the verification services and the market access services that they need to really kind of run their business and to make it successful. So this is the world we find ourselves in today, right? Even with a massive, aggressive, completely successful decarbonization initiative, that really, in order to meet any of our climate goals, we really need to pair that with atmospheric carbon dioxide removal at a similar scale, kind of matching, at least in some portion of the ratios that are being emitted today. So billions of tons of emissions, and we need to get to a gigaton scale, billions of tons of carbon being removed from the atmosphere every year in order to kind of meet our objectives to ever get to net neutrality. And so that's where we're working. We're working in this carbon removal space. And that's also the scale that we're thinking at. We're working with our partners to say, all right, how can you do this at gigaton scale? And so we think that the most promising solutions, the most scalable solutions are to be found within the oceans. And there's just a lot of advantages within the ocean pathways. Macroalgae and other ocean organisms kind of have a growth rate that's much, much higher than terrestrial plants. That there are opportunities to electrochemically or change the chemistry of the ocean in such a way to increase carbon uptake. The carbon concentration of the water is higher. And so across a bunch of different pathways, there are just a lot of very promising ways to really operate. You've got the resources to play at the scale that we really need to work at. But there are also a tremendous number of unknowns, a bunch of problems in trying to do this. And so there are people doing it today. There are a variety of companies that are using these various pathways to extract carbon from the atmosphere, and then they want to sell it into carbon markets or to the sophisticated purchasers. And right now, there's a bunch of challenges to do that. The kind of necessary pieces of the kind of economic ecosystem don't exist. So you could plant some seaweed and sink it to the bottom of the ocean and try to convince Frontier Capital to purchase from you, and their first question is going to be, well, what's your MRV standard? Like, how can you prove that this really happened? How did you, who's your verifier? Like how? And because these things don't exist, that's a big problem. And so we are here to kind of by providing critical pieces that are kind of missing within this value chain, be able to kind of unlock the whole thing and build out this ecosystem, this pathway between the suppliers and then the purchasers and the markets. And so, we've got a lot of excellent traction among the people who are trying to do this. They recognize early that this is a big problem for them, that somebody kind of needs to be playing this role. And so we've got a wide group of groups across a bunch of different pathways that we're excited to be working with. And then also a very robust pipeline of organizations that we're talking to that we're looking forward to working with in the months ahead. And the reason for that is that, so if you're in the CDR business, proof of sequestration is your product. That's the thing you are selling. That's really all you have. And so if you don't have a credible verification standard, if there's not a pathway to prove that you're doing what you're claiming you're doing, you don't really have a business. And within the marine space, it's quite complicated. And so the standards don't yet exist for a variety of reasons. And some of the reasons for that is that the scientific community, who best understands these protocols, best understands kind of the science of it all, they're really quite wary of writing commercial standards, especially if there's still areas of the science that are being explored. There's kind of lots of work to be done. And so there's uncertainty involved. And so they're very wary of kind of writing commercial standards to apply to that. And so what companies are doing right now is they're having to write their own standards. If they want to sell to a provider, they say, well, we think this is the appropriate way to measure this. We're building out our own infrastructure to do it. And so we think this is the appropriate standard. And so two people that are doing relatively similar things might have kind of different standards. And in both cases, there's a conflict of interest. And so
1
you really
minute warning.
require this commercial and scientific perspective to come together to do it. And so that's what we're doing. We're kind of building out kind of long-term partnerships with our partners. And so we want to both design these standards, and then we'll collect and review the MRV data, and we'll be their verifiers, we'll be their carbon accountants, we'll be their pathways into the markets. And so ocean science is really central to what we're doing. And so we've kind of built our core team around that, both oceanographers on our internal staff, and then really great, knowledgeable people within the industry in general. And so we really see this as, a huge opportunity, a vital role, just growing industry, wide open space, but also reduce risks. We're not really assuming the operational risk of any of these particular pathways. And so our revenue model is based on taking a small percentage of our company's offsets. And so as they grow and scale into megatons and gigaton scales, we would grow and scale with them as well. We would share in their success.
And time is up.
Okay, yeah, and so this is our pre-seed round. We're looking to raise a $750K to launch, proof of concept end-to-end CDR initiatives.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on the business model while we're bringing the other investors in?
Sure. And so we work closely with companies, and we say, what exactly is your process? And then we begin work with them to design an MRV, an appropriate MRV protocol, kind of fitting them for their scale, for their process. And then we'll kind of decide collectively what data needs to be gathered, and then they'll kind of send that to us, and then we will kind of package that up, certify it, verify it, and then make it available to the carbon markets, carbon purchasers. And we're relatively innovative in that we're not charging lots of money on the upfront. We're kind of free to work with. We do the methodology development at no cost, software integration at no cost. But then we charge a little bit of a small percentage on the back end. So as the industry grows and scales, we would retain a small percentage of that.
Roughly how much?
2 to 5%. So kind of
Okay.
caps out at around 2% at the megaton scale.
And how do you see the carbon capture space playing out in terms of the various technologies and what the kind of distribution of those will be like?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of different marine pathways. So we think in general, of course, marine is not the only aspect of CDR in general, right? There's DAC, there's forestry and things like that. But if you're looking at kind of the durable pathways, the thing we need at least 100 years durability standard, kind of guaranteed irreversible 100 years, which is where we kind of the product, that's what we're certifying, that's what the world needs, right? There, I think, trees are now very problematic. So I think the ocean is really going to be a big portion of it. There's DAC, there's biochar, they're both, they both have great potential. We wish them well. There's also more than enough carbon for everybody, right? And so, but to like a world in which is going at a gigaton scale, we think that's going to be the ocean. Like that's really where the action is. And it probably will be like alkalinity is certainly getting the most traction. Direct ocean capture has got a lot of potential, has some advantages over direct air capture. Biomass has enormous potential, but there are concerns if you look up into the megaton scale, if it's really going to be able to get really beyond that. But we are kind of not at this stage, it's very, very early in the industry. We are not in the business of picking winners and losers. We want to work with everybody who's just getting started, and if there are obstacles, see if we can overcome them. We just kind of move the whole space forward, move the whole industry forward.
So let me see if I'm characterizing this right. You'd be a service provider for somebody like Charm Industries, which is a biomass to ocean storage. Yeah. Okay. So how is that defensible? Like, I'd love to know your dealings against competition, and how is that scalable in a way that's not a consulting firm? Because consulting firms are really freaking hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like right now there's a big need for this in the industry, right? So on both on provider side and on the purchasing side, right? And even we'll talk to carbon markets and they'll say, yeah, we'd love to take the product. We need somebody to verify it, right? And so there's a big hole in the space right now that there's an opportunity for us to fill. So part of it is just kind of building the partnerships with everybody, building the expertise, building the knowledge, being the first early player, capturing the market is going to be a big one. And also, I think what we're doing is a sticky service. And so we'll be baked into their operational details. All their data will be funneling through us. We're their pathway into the carbon markets, which is where they make all of their money, right? So that I think can be a sticky service. Other aspects of it, though, you're right. We are in the transparency business, like credibility and defined standards and open standards and building these things is very much kind of part of what we're trying to do. We more than trying to build moats, we really are trying to build bridges, right? We know that there's a lot of weight that needs to go over a lot of bridges, and we want to collect a toll. But yeah, we were very much kind of in the in the end. It's possible in the future that people will go over our bridges and they didn't pay the toll. But I don't know. That's, I mean, from an investor perspective, that may make you nervous, but from an impact perspective, it is.
So I think you've got a business here. To be clear, I think there's a big business to be had here, but I don't know if it's a venture-backed startup that you have.
Yeah.
And so, because we're, on the digital side of things, on the software side of things, people are always looking for 10x, 100x, 1000x returns for investing early. And like margins on your kind of business might not be there for that.
Yeah. So right now our agreements are like saying 2 to 5% at scale, right? And essentially 0 until then, right? And so that's the question, right? In the future, will anybody will kind of achieve these scales, and will they be paying it to us, right? And so there certainly is value in playing this certifier role, this packaging role. Even after all the standards are developed, even after the industry's mature, there's definitely value in that. Now, is it, even if it's half a percentage, we're talking billion. Well, I've had conversations with people. They're like, "Hey, we're looking to do 1 billion tons at $100 a ton. That's $100 billion. Are we really going to give you 2%?" And it's a kind of a surreal conversation to be having at this stage. But it's also like, well, maybe not. But let's figure it out together, right? There's definitely like money here, value here, a tremendous amount of it probably, and exactly how much it's going to happen. I really know kind of what agreements they're willing to sign today, and that's where we're at. Right.
Hold on to those contracts for sure. Okay, fair.
I have a few follow-on questions on this business model as well. The first one is that for most marine carbon capture today, it's and actually that goes for many other pathways, but in particular for the marine one, those are credits that are not done today. They are going to be done in the future, and Frontiers and other few players are paying upfront, but the credits themselves, which is a part that you actually take the percentage on, would only be delivered later. So that that creates already a cash flow type of problem for you if you're only counting in once delivered. And also maybe a misalignment of incentives there, in a sense, for you to be the standard, like the one to define the standard, because obviously like you would take the percentage of whatever is delivered. So would that at any point be an issue for people criticizing you for being able to verify a number of credits where that it's also aligned with your incentives? And maybe just a final little one to add to all of those. I've heard, and that I'd love for you to correct me on that one, that today the commercialization of credits for ocean carbon capture is still not entirely legal, or there isn't a regulatory framework to allow for that. So I'd love to hear your elaboration on those three somewhat interconnected issues.
All right, let's see. I'll see if I can remember them all. So beginning the last one, then there's kind of permitting and certainly an area that's in flux in terms of permitting and other kind of legality issues. There are things that are projects that are proceeding. There's things proceeding on the policy front. So in terms of is this legal? One, it's that's a burden that's being borne by the suppliers more than us, but they're proceeding. I think that's going to be overcome. The other question is kind of, is it certified? Right now there are no certification methodologies. That's precisely the role that we're looking to play. So in that sense, it's not legal in the sense that they're not really in any markets because there's no way to get it certified precisely. And incentives. Okay, so then the incentives, you're right. We are certainly kind of on the supplier's side. We definitely, our business model is based around, as this industry grows and scales, we want to be incorporated into it. Regardless of what our business model was, right? We could be a nonprofit. We could take no money whatsoever from the supply side. These will undergo tremendous scrutiny. They must undergo. If you're trying to operate at the scale that the world needs us to operate at, if you're asking for people to pay $500 a ton, and you're saying it's going to be proven that's gone for 1,000 years, you're going to be under a lot of scrutiny. You'll be a lot of scrutiny from the scientific community. You'll be under a lot of scrutiny from the market, the purchasing side community. This very much has to be real. And so it's almost kind of independent of where our incentives are, where our alignment is. Like, there's no fooling anyone. But also, that's not where the opportunity is either. Like, the world needs this to be real. We need it to be real. Our partners need to be real. So they have to be robust, credible, commercially viable, but scientifically sound standards, or we don't have a business. And so it's really independent of kind of our business model there.
Yes and no. There's perception as well. If you have a banker working 50% of his time at a bank and 50% of his time at the IRS, are you really going to trust that banker? And the answer is absolutely not.
Right.
And it's because incentives trump everything else. Unfortunately, I think that I do think that is a bit of a problem potentially.
For sure.
In that regard, how do you see? Sorry, how do you see existing platforms or the existing standards that are developing for other areas of the carbon market? Would there be a role for them to also be ruling or be taking a more active role within the marine pathway as well?
Yeah, potentially. So right now the CDR industry is kind of split into, I put them into 3 different buckets. There's all things tree, which is kind of problematic because you're either growing a new tree or you're not, and it's going to maybe turn down or it's not, and the trees are tricky, but there's lots of trees. Then there's the things like biochar and DAC, which have pretty robust MRV standards. It's actually not that hard to measure like what you've done. And so those are going full speed ahead, and there's a lot of credibility around what they're certifying. They're really just kind of how much supply can you produce. And then there's everything else, which is primarily the marine space, which has significant challenges, which has great additionality and durability stories. You can, if you've harvested a bunch of kelp and then you sunk it to the bottom of the ocean, that's a discrete event. There's reason to expect that it'll still be there in centuries from now. But there are certainly MRV challenges around kind of each step of the way, around the air sea exchange, around that durability at depth, around the carbon cycling in the deep ocean. And so there are definitely like pieces that must be addressed along each step of the way. And so that's why there's so much work to be done within the marine MRV space. And that's kind of why it's different than both trees and things like that. There are things like enhanced weathering, which kind of have similar-ish MRV challenges to the marine space as well.
Sure, but you see exactly, for instance, for enhanced rock weathering, you see platforms like Puro or even Vera and others who have been in the space for a little longer already, trying to provide new standards for them as well. So why wouldn't
they might be? Yeah, they might be. So right now, I can say that they aren't really yet. I've spoken with all of them, and they're not kind of rushing into the marine space. Everyone's quite nervous about it. We are kind of pioneers in many ways. And so, but Puro is doing like a terrestrial biomass sunk at depth step. So they are kind of, that's a kind of a first foray into the ocean, looking at some of the same issues as well. And so those issues, those efforts will expand, and there is both current interest and the interest will grow as well. But also there's just a lot of work to be done, a big opportunity here as well.
Paul, Matt, any questions on your end? Awesome. Then Ben, thanks for sharing what your guys are doing with Oceanid. And thanks for giving me the better pronunciation on that. I was a little off and unsure.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah. I'm going to take a quick time out to tell you guys, all brought to you by Forward VC and our partner in crime, Climate Accelerator, to learn more about us and how we help companies with truly being a partner in crime, helping them land customers, pilot some serious traction through our network, 140 plus mentors, and dozens, if not hundreds, of warm introductions. So you can get the pilots that you need to go from TRL, nothing to TRL in the field and actually getting customers and traction. Forward.vc/accelerator for more details. And there you'll find our free climate funding database, 950 plus funds, incubators, accelerators. You can find the application forms for the startup tank, our climate Slack communities, and hop in there and be sure to say hi. And if you want to apply for this, thestartuptank.com. We do this every 2 weeks. We bring on about 6 companies, about 2 to 3 awesome climate investors, and we try to get you guys some exposure. We got 2 last companies that we want to get some exposure for, so to speak. And first, how about we hand things over to Robert with Aris Hydronics, who's trying to revolutionize the HVAC industry and save some serious energy, which HVAC, while it may not be sexy, is actually one of the biggest problems in our world and getting bigger every day.
Thanks, Matt. Not sexy yet. But
not sexy. It's never going to be sexy, but we can fix that. Yeah. Sexy is not necessarily the right investment strategy anyways. You want to tell us what you guys are doing and how you're reducing energy usage quite a bit?
Yeah. Yes, how you doing? I'm Robert Benjamin, founder and CEO of Aris Hydronics. So we believe at Aris Hydronics that every homeowner and occupant should be afforded the ability to keep their family comfortable, livable, and safe, while not inadvertently contributing to a more unlivable planet. So speaking of the US, right now, the majority of homes are still using dirty thermal appliances that are inefficient. One of the big drawbacks of this is we're producing a ton of greenhouse gases through the use of these, and we're spending a lot of money to provide heating, cooling, and hot water to our homes. The collective daily acts of doing these are contributing to a more unstable, unpredictable, and inhospitable climate, which we then have to react to with more gear and more energy inside the homes. So Aris Hydronics has a better way, an innovative modular heating, cooling, and hot water system that costs less to purchase and install, save homeowners 45% on their yearly energy bills, emits zero carbon, and provides unmatched indoor comfort and control. We're actually in the business of homeowner happiness. An Aris home is adaptable, controllable, and comfortable. It's quiet, efficient, and safe. And we are retrofit friendly. Retrofits, I call them sort of the most difficult task, is to get out old systems and put in new systems. And so we have a full solution that is fully customizable, has full home coverage, and is maximized for comfort and efficiency. We actually are an advanced thermal energy management system, and we can take energy out of the air through an air-to-water heat pump. We have advanced controls and energy routers, and we use thermal energy storage tanks, which are basically water batteries that we can layer into the system to increase efficiency. And then we have a patent pending design. So it's a utility patent for a full hydronic room conditioning system. And we're not only better hardware and a better HVAC solution, we're a better way to sell HVAC. The industry itself, and speaking of the United States and North America, has a very sort of old school methodology of how manufacturers interface with wholesalers, distributors, and ultimately a retail HVAC shop, who is the brand representation. So we're changing that. We're actually vertically integrated. We're a direct-to-consumer sales model. We are going to have stronger brand building and brand connection. We have lower costs that we can pass on directly to the consumers, higher quality control. We have a lot more future sales potential because we own that relationship now from that starting point on to the end. And because our system is designed differently, we actually have a new untapped HVAC installation workforce that is contractors and licensed plumbers, which more than doubles the amount of available workforce to do heat pump installation, which is a big deal. So we have a segmented, scalable go-to-market strategy around homeowners and retrofits initially, but we have builders and new construction that we're already getting interest and that we're going after. And in the end, we're going after multifamily operators. We have some competition, but it's very limited, and we blow them away in a couple different areas, including the amount of features that we offer and the cost of our complete systems.
1 minute warning.
Okay, so we also are competitive against legacy systems, and that it was something very important, so that if we're going against gas equipment and new AC units or split mini split systems that we can beat them in price and more features and more comfort. We're getting rapidly pulled into the market. We have pilots that have been sold already. We did our first system sale after 5 months of formation, and we have people in over 20 states who are interested and internationally are interested in our products. We have a very big available market that we're going after in retrofits of HVAC equipment. But I think the bigger story is that we've solved a 2.1 million unit heat pump riddle in the United States, where air to water heat pumps are barely sold here, but internationally they account for almost half of the heat pump sales. So we have a rapid 5-year growth plan. And we are looking forward to raise $1 million in a pre-seed raise so that we can get our first initial commercial launch about a year and a half from now.
And time is up.
Experienced founding team.
While I'm bringing in the founders, tell me a quick overview of you and the founding team. I'll bring in the other investors, and then we can open up for questions.
Sure. Yeah. So we, me and my co-founder Helene, have experience that ranges from manufacturing, launching companies, and my co-founder especially has many years experience in the real estate industry and a lot of different areas. So we cover all the sort of needed bases for this kind of audacious company launch.
So speaking of audacious, 45% energy saving. What percentage of that is on heating versus cooling?
So cooling, we actually have even higher. We're on our pilot systems here in Zone 4 in the Pacific Northwest. We're seeing a 70% reduction in energy costs. And we bundle these because we're a combined system, but on cooling and hot water against gas and legacy HVAC, so forced air. Heating is really a lot dependent on the climate zone. And so I say 45% is a yearly. So that factors in that we're a little less efficient when it comes to against gas, but we're still saving money on gas systems in the wintertime.
Robert, I'm a heat pump nerd and I love them.
I love it. Good.
We looked at Gradient and I'm friends with Saul Griffith, who's got an incubator here in San Francisco called Other Labs. They incubated Gradient and Stowe, which is a single family heat pump unit. Different technology. Okay. I get that. Name of the game is distribution. Like, you might have the best tech. The fact that the US isn't massively deeper into its heat pump transition is surprising, but it's all distribution. So what are your distribution plans?
Yeah, so distribution and the way it's set up is actually one of the problems.
Totally.
Selling heat pumps through HVAC installers, they actually are in a lot of different things. Half of them don't even want to do heat pumps. Half of them are against the technology. It's also a lot for them to learn. There's a lot of expense, and there's not enough of them. You can't cover all the homes. I say 83 million residential homes and 60 million multifamily. So we're just going around it. And when you talk about distribution is an old model comparative to what we're doing. So we're not trying to sell something that goes in every single home. We have a path to lots of homes that can create a lot of revenue, but it's on a different kind of scale. And the better way to do that is like a Tesla model. Sell directly to the homeowner, bring in the installers, train them up, and have a good experience. And that's what's missing today in the HVAC market.
I totally agree with the problem. The solution that is to hire people or to contract with people directly to do this?
Yeah, so there's a plumber in every single city who has almost 90% of the skill set to install our heat pumps, because we don't have refrigerant lines that run indoors, and it's self-enclosed, and we create a modular system. So we're training up a whole new workforce that's going to do HVAC tomorrow that doesn't necessarily do it today. But internationally, this is actually how it's done a little bit different than here in the States.
Are you training them up or franchising them?
We're going to create a unique model. We're actually going to create a cooperative, localized model, because you have to have installation be localized and you have to have it be under state codes. And so ultimately what we're going to do is spearhead into new markets with our own installers, but it's going to be underneath a cooperative subsidiary. And that way we can branch out to include any HVAC, any plumbing shops or general contractors who want to become installers can become members of that cooperative. This is actually a model that's being done in solar right now as well, is that there's solar cooperatives, purchasing cooperatives, but we're going to be a installation cooperative model.
Why not look at like something the technology, for instance, to a Home Depot or someone that wants to have their own line that has their own installers, etc.
So it's just a horrendous experience. You're talking about commoditizing something, and once you commoditize it, you have to compete against every other piece of equipment for price, space, and in the end of the day, that's not your best customer experience. You're not going to build a new brand, and that's our ultimate goal, is to build a powerful brand. You're not going to do it that way. It's the same reason that when Tesla did their solar roofs or their power walls, that they didn't go out and just look for the existing industry to sell them. They weren't going to do it effectively, and they weren't going to build their brand effectively.
But that's because Elon Musk.
Not that when this is on every corner that we wouldn't open it up to broader distribution. That we're not going to say we'll never do it, but Home Depot is not the place that will go, most likely.
But that's because Elon Musk can go on Twitter and say, "I am God, buy my product." And
yeah, but not then. Not when he was first. Not when they were first starting out. Now he can do whatever he wants, or he thinks he can.
After the cars, he could do that. He had lots of disciples.
Yeah, but even the model for cars, which is the thing, is that a normal dealer, they went to him, right, and they said, "Can you learn how to do our cars?" And they couldn't do it. So ultimately, they had to create the demand, service that demand, and now ultimately create the brand.
I agree with you, Robert. He was nothing before. He built the brand around the cars and the successful model of it being a high-end VIP experience. So, and Apple did too, right?
But you're not sexy by having a heating pump. This isn't driving around and saying, "Hey, ladies, gents, look at me and my fancy car."
So Matt, we're going to prove you wrong. And if Lean was here on the call, she'd tell you that you're wrong too, in the sense that historically, HVAC has not been sexy because the products haven't been treated like consumer products. And the kind of products that we're designing and the look of feel of them, they're going to be brag worthy. When it's in front of your house and your neighbor asks you, "What is that?" you're going to be proud to tell them what that is. And it's not going to look like the kind of heat pumps that you see strapped on the side of houses across the world now, because those are not well designed from an industrial design point of view products. They're not made to look sexy. Ours are.
Look at the refrigerator market in the last 5 years.
Well, Gradient is a perfect example too. That's a nice looking product. Matter of fact, that's an air to water heat pump. If they don't advertise it and don't tell you, but so it's a technology that works, super adaptable. We're just going to do the whole house instead of your windows.
Yeah, yes and no. I still think associating them with remotely similar kind of sex appeal just is not true. The iPhone, the iPod is, "Hey, look who's cool and has music." The Tesla is, "Hey, look who's got the sexy sports car." That means, you know what that means.
Times are changing though. There's about, what I was going to say with electrification, the sheer fact of changing and modernizing is actually a sexy act. And so we're tapping into a movement that's happening around changing out your homes. And there's a connection with HVAC that people don't realize exists. It controls everything in your home, the way you feel, the way your hot water, how hot your baths are and your showers are. And so there hasn't been control historically over these systems. We just accepted them as something that was in the house. That's changed. We actually have full control about everything it does. We can control it on an app. We can watch its performance, and we can make sure that the industrial design makes that statement. That's what's been missing from the market. But I'm happy to prove you wrong.
I hope you prove me wrong. But
exactly.
if I've got a Mona Lisa in my apartment, I have to get you into my apartment.
By the way, so I didn't touch on this, but our fan coil units that will be inside your house literally will look. We can put Mona Lisa on there, but we can put paintings on there. We're taking a whole different approach that I can't really touch on too much in our whole scheme. But hydronics themselves are so much more adaptable. It's not going to look like an ugly looking head unit up on the wall, because that's not what we're making. We're making something completely different. So I think, which is good, people's interpretation are far off from the vision that we have, because it hasn't existed before. I mean, relatively, there's some cool units that people have done in Italy and France. And so it's not like people don't understand the need for higher aesthetics inside of the home when it comes to HVAC. It's there, it's just not connected the way that we're going to connect it.
What's the sexiest name in mattresses?
Up to 8+. Everyone I know has one.
Spoken like a true VC.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like every single person I know has one, and everyone that doesn't is like, "Oh, I got to get one."
This is not a mattress. This is a high performance sports car that we're making, so it's a little different.
I think Matt Ward's example has proven your point. So
Yeah, I guess so. I was going to say, what if you've had any HVAC installed, I guess, this is more North American, what's the name of the brand? Not the,
I think you have two types of products. This is what I'm coming down to is there's two types of products in the world. You have the Apple and the Android. You have the toilet paper. I couldn't give a shit what it is as long as it gets the job done, which I think HVAC is, and cheaper, better, more efficient is what counts. And then you have this is who I am, what I stand for.
Yep.
I'm a skier. I'm a basketball player. I do weights. I drive a sexy car. I think
you just did it with Apple. Before Apple said that the design was important, that it was as important as the functionality. That's how people looked at computers. So,
but you bring it somewhere else. So I have to trick you to come into my house to prove I'm cool to you.
No, it's outside. The heat pump sits there. You can see it. It's going to look beautiful. We'll have lots of different color options.
I've got to trick you to come to my neighborhood with how many people live in. I'm just saying, like I want it to work. I just don't see this being a sexy.
But that's fine, because the truth is, I'm still going to heat your home better, and it's going to cost you less, and it's going to perform better. We designed this so that my neighbor, who doesn't care about what his hot water heater is doing to the environment or creating a worse environment around him, he's not connected to that. Not that he wouldn't care if it was presented a different way, but the truth is that we're going to walk over there and say, I'm going to replace your system to something that's not a Stone Age technology that you have full control over, that's not going to put gas in your house. But most importantly, it's going to just do everything better. And you're going to have full control of it where you didn't before. And he's going to buy and replace the system, as opposed to just saying that he has to think that this has to be cool to do it or not. No, he's going to do it because it performs better. And the byproduct, which I didn't get to the page, is that we're going to take out 2.5 tons of CO2 emissions per house per year. So we're talking about, at a scale of 100,000 installs over 15 years, that we can reduce 370,000 metric tons of CO2. So,
and I think it's awesome. I'm only pushing back because I don't think the sex appeal is going to be a sell at all. I think the other things are good sells.
Yeah, so it could be so they'll just look better, and people could buy it for their other reason. It's fine. It's important to us because we developed this product because we're homeowners who do want better looking, better performing products. So for us, how it looks is important to us. So is there some customers who don't give a damn? They may not be our right customer, right? Not that we're going to charge too much premium for it, but yes, if someone's going to create something a lot crappier looking and just put it on the wall, and that's all they need, it might be a better fit. Sorry, I'm not to be combative about this, but I actually love that that's a sticking point, is aesthetics a driver?
No, but it goes around your go to market. So how do you acquire customers? In my opinion, if you've got a product that's better, that is a toilet paper product that people couldn't care less about the brand, they care about the functionality, you want to get it in as many people's hands as possible. And I think that's what this is.
That's something that I think, when you're growing a brand and you want it to be a strong, powerful brand, that you don't take the route, at least that's not how I see it, of try to get it in as many people's hands as possible in the beginning. You try to create happy customers, as happy as possible for as long as possible, until you get to the point where you can be in as many homes as is appropriate for your business model. 100,000 units, which is a drop in the bucket in the 9 million unit changeover of HVAC every year, right? It's a very small percentage point. That's $1.5 billion in sales for us, because we're doing the complete system, right? So we're going to make a multi-billion-dollar company off a very small fraction of the market. And once we get to that point, then we can expand and be as big as we want to be at, because we can sell multiple products to that same customer.
There is even hipster toilet paper. So it's a strategy that works.
There is, but it's super niche. You're not going to convert you're not going to convert the entire world to be a hipster, just like you won't convert the whole world to be.
Yeah, we don't have to convert the entire world to be super profitable and make a very big company. So that's kind of our strategy, is not go after the masses, but go after enough to be very successful.
Awesome.
Sorry to take too much of your time, but I know you have to go on to
yeah, I mean, that's definitely an interesting conversation. I think add fire to the add a little spark to the fire. I do think that heat pumps are somewhat sexy, but I know that I'm a part of a very limited bubble. So moving beyond that debate, something I was curious about, Robert, was about the manufacturing process, and how are you thinking about that? Because it is a significant challenge to go even to the scale that you just referred to, and the cost that it implies as well. So are you planning on manufacturing locally? Like, do you already have the capacity to even go beyond the pilots that you currently have and really bring prices down?
Yeah, I mean, yes.
units?
Sorry, not to take up too much time, but yes, I have experience with manufacturing, so I knew how things worked from the very beginning. And one of the things that I did was de-risk the entire process of product development. So we're using the best products in the world already after less than a year old, and we're developing the next generation that will be even better. But we can get to market right now with thousands of units. If someone made an order, we could do that. Now we need infrastructure underneath it to be able to take care of those products and get the right installs and service them afterwards. So that's what we're doing right now with the money. But scale from a production point of view isn't a problem. Getting the new product developed, we need to put some resources behind, because we actually want to manufacture in the United States for some of our products, and not use as much contract manufacturing. But we'll do whatever keeps the economics working, because that's what will increase the adoption, is to make sure that these are affordable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Then thanks for pitching. I like the back and forth. I find it super interesting. I might go a little less on the premium route, but obviously I made that inherently clear. Now let's hand things over to the last company that we have in the startup tank, who's also dealing with making the house a little bit cleaner, a little bit sexier. Zach with Zauben, the living wall tech for recycled urban hydroponics. Zach, do you want to take things away and share a little bit more? You're on mute, Zach.
Yeah.
Hear you now, loud and clear. Sounds good. You ready to take it away?
Yeah, let me just reshare this. Sorry, I'm on
You're muted again, Zach. Every time you put the sharing on, you seem to mute yourself.
Can we hear me and see my screen?
There we go. You are good. Your
Okay.
5
Am I
minutes
screen
start now.
here?
Yes, it looks good. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Having a case of the money's already. I'm Zach. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Zauben, and I'm calling here from Chicago. I know a lot of us are calling from cities, and really the question we're begging is, what are our cities doing to our environments? It might come to a surprise. I know here as climate investors and climate companies, we're already thinking through, well, they're doing some pretty drastic problems to our cities. They're consuming 40% of the world's energy, and they're producing 40% of all greenhouse gas emissions. We're continuing to build vertically, so our green spaces are becoming less and less. And we have a really large challenge, right? We have to decarbonize not just our buildings, but our cities and globe to reach these net zero targets. And so that's really where we need to find moonshots. We need to find innovation within the built environment to really retrofit our buildings that become living, breathing spaces. And ultimately, that's where living walls and green rooms come in, or what we call it as nature-based climate technologies. So these technologies that we've developed, they not only absorb CO2, but they also provide other range of benefits. So air quality on a city scale, we improve it as much as 30%. Reduce energy building savings as much as 25 to 75%, depending on AC, cooling, and temperature, time of year, different climate zones. Most obvious is enhanced biodiversity, right? How do we build back responsibly with our environments? We talked a lot about retrofitting, right? So we have all these aging asset properties, particularly in prop tech, now being synonymous with climate tech. This is an example. This is with Google. We'll talk a little bit how we came to Google Climate Accelerator shortly. But ultimately, what's our North Star? We talked about decarbonization, building energy saving benefits. What could be the large milestone that we're looking to do. So there's a lot of green roof policy, a lot of green building policy, LEED, wall certifications. Certainly now cities, 60 plus cities just in the last 4 years, put these regulations. So this is a very emerging market. Now, interesting enough, 20%, I know many of you're in Paris, I believe. French Parliament has a very extensive green roof policy of 20 to 30% of green rooftops having to be covered by green roofs. So our mission here, how we can make a true dent into climate change, is we have the potential to offset 5.4% of global CO2 emissions just as with one product alone. All right. We're already making waves in the space. We're working with some of the largest developers, JLL, CBRE, Hines, RXR, you kind of name it. Google, I mentioned a few times. We work industrious. We're working inside and out of buildings. When we think of just the total addressable market, it's 18 billion. What's really cool, look at this number, 4 billion plant service market. That's usually for a plantscaping company, a landscaping company. And when we think about these regulations that are coming into play, by 2030, it'll be the green construction industry will be 303 billion. So living walls, green roofs, 18 billion, 4 billion on a really well, it's going to be a SaaS, but we're going to see this become more and more of a mainstream product because it's just part of our urban environments. Going to Google Climate Tech, so we started 15 months ago. All right, we are a startup in every sense of the word. We've designed the world's smartest living wall and green roof systems. Our hydroponic technology, which we're seeing as all recyclable, as Matt has shared, is using, believe it or not, cutting edge machine learning. Okay, so we're using algorithms to optimize irrigation in real time, such as humidity, temperature, moisture. But then you also think about from the data play, right? Indoor air quality sensors. We know all the Hines, JP Morgan, you kind of name it. They're already looking through what is happening in their buildings. But now we are actually doing this on the exterior too. So we have a really large data set inside and out of better understanding cities. And then most importantly, it eliminates plant replacement. So we have 99% plant survivability month over month. We have 100% plant warranties to back that up. This is what we're doing from a building scale. We're showing the data of what this is doing. It's not just retrofitting, but where's the data coming to play, understanding how it's actually offsetting those buildings. Really quickly, 15 months ago, we have 489,000 in book sales. We have 382,000 in revenue in. We have 136,000 ARR. So again, we actually are a software play, and 82% SaaS margins on that, and more than 30 million in our pipeline. We've done a pre-seed. We've raised just under $1 million on a pre-seed on a $5 million post-safe. We are doing our seed round, 10.5 million. We have $1.5 million commitment. We are 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, of closing out.
Time is up.
Partner. Oh, sorry, I was reading a chat there. This is why we're here. We want to find who are the pioneers, who are the people that wanted to roll up their sleeves with us to fight climate change and to make a difference on our built environment. So we're really excited to meet, excited to have you ask questions and for us to really revolutionize our cities together.
So first question, while I bring in the other investors, why green living walls versus focusing on green roofs?
Because the technology uses both. So it's the same technology, right? It's a patent technology of modular panels. What's pretty fascinating is right now, if you're an architect, you're an engineer, you're a developer, you're a property owner, property builder, developer, you're using one of the other systems. Those systems are very different. Usually a lot of them are messy. They're dirt-based. They break down over time. They decay over time. And so what we did is we wanted to, we actually first found the solution for living walls. And then hey, this is no different than what we're seeing in the green roof industry. This can be utilized as part of that. I guess one other thing is in that thinking too is we're doing software data visualization. So same technology can be applied vertically or horizontally, same technology applied. So we think it addresses a very large gap in what they're seeing of just a few providers that work regionally, but we can do this and we're doing this on a national scale, and it kind of go to that as well, just on our business model.
Yeah, if you can double click on the business model, I'll be interested because at some point you mentioned that you are a software platform with 82% margins, and you also build the walls and like I guess also the hardware. So I'll be curious if you are integrating the hardware cost into that calculation as well, and what exactly the business model is.
Yeah, they're totally separate. So they pay for upfront for the hardware, and then on the SaaS. I guess to kind of give you a better idea, so unlike a lot of the competitors in the space, we've led with technology, machine learning, but just to give you an idea, what happens today is there's plant companies, they only operate regionally. So basically have a really high overhead, right? Because they're going on site, let's say it's monthly, to see how the green roof's performing or how living wall is performing. And when you do that, you have plant failure, you have 20 to 30% plant replacement each month. That becomes really costly for the client. So what we did is, let's be proactive. Let's actually optimize the technology just based on the environmental, real-time environmental measurements to trigger for interior living walls, plant lighting. So circadian rhythm is really important. And then just even on a square footage basis, optimizing that irrigation. Summertime, versus winter, it's much more drier, actually hotter. So different parts of the built environment will require more irrigation, where a lot of the systems today, they'll flood or under water the system essentially. So you have a lot of plant replacement. And then what we do, we leverage that technology with, let's just say it's JLL or CBRE, you take your pick. They already have national partners, right? They're doing the inside of their buildings. What we'll do is we'll train and certify their partners on our technology. So we ultimately oversee their partners. And then it allows us to have a quality control, right, and a plant care checklist if they are replacing plants. So we're incentivized by not replacing plants. But just to give you an idea, on the software piece, I'll kind of go back and I'll give you a visual here. So we're looking at this rendering here at Google. It's $1.50 per square foot for the software. What a typical project would be, because this is going to be LEED well certified, right? So green roofs, living walls are all part of that built environment. It's already being spec'd in. What another competitor would do is they would charge them $4.50 or $7 per square foot per month, right? So having technology to optimize it, we're already baked in what would be a large landscaping contract. And then they get this killer dashboard to understand how it's actually, well, actually, not even before they do the building, they have a data software visualization that can understand those tangible benefits. We know buyback periods are really, really important, particularly with developers.
So I have a question about market size. I'm absolutely a customer for you guys. Like I have commercial buildings here in San Francisco and I love it. And I love green roofs, love green walls. My wife, if she had seen this, would already be like pushing purchase. So the problem is there's not as many, like the service addressable market is big enough, right? However, it's a really fragmented market. Not everybody's paying $4 grand for a wall. They're buying, a $60 plant and they're having somebody come by once a week and water it. So what's the actual, I'd rather see a ground up model on how you're going to acquire customers rather than, that. To be fair, I hate the service addressable market slide that everybody has because I'm like, climate, it's the global GDP. That's the service addressable market. So tell me about what you think the actual size of the people that are going to be able to afford you and want to pay $300, $400 a month for your service.
Well, we're not consumer focused. We're going to.
I know.
So it's developers. The sweet thing is San Francisco was one of the first cities that started doing these green roof mandates. So if you're a developer, you're developing a space that's 25,000 square feet, 20 to 30% of that roof is green roof. Now, another part of that might be well. We're going to be the first well certified product, which all that means is there's probably biophilia is a large part of achieving that certification. Living walls significantly boosts what that square footage would be with biophilia. So it becomes cheaper than office plants. But we do think office plants is interesting. I won't go into that now. I want to take away from it. But I think also what we're seeing too is a large demand from the tenants. Building owners are beginning to understand green office premiums. So when they're looking to do renovations or a large retrofit, understanding how can we one, address decarbonization, and two, how can we basically boost their property by 7 to 15%, positioning it just by greenery. but most of it's being done. It's a new built development, and the city has to get approved by LEED certifications for it to go up.
Gotcha. Fair.
That's ultimately just drawing the demand. And it's depending on green roof mandates, can be anywhere from $3.50 per square foot versus what a traditional roofing company would be. So there's some really interesting ROIs tied to that. Energy savings, water storm management versus traditional roofs. And then you're not having to do it for 50 years versus a traditional roof might be 15, 20 years. So it's a lot of driven by economics.
Probably a big plus too. So I get it.
At some point, you mentioned the offsetting of 5% of the CO2 emissions of a building. Do you refer to like the energy use of the building, or did you consider the construction of it, or because I would assume that no, but just double checking what you're referring to here, and if by any point you're considering that calculation as one of the benefits that you'd be selling as well to the players that are acquiring your solution. Like, are you planning on showing the CO2 offsetting that their plants are providing or something like this?
So that's the cool part, right? When we think of, I know we're seeing a lot of like hard tech, deep tech companies, but one of the most fundamental things with hydroponic technology is what are we doing, right? Like there's a roof, it's absorbing a lot of heat on mitigation is becoming a really large part of our cities. Same with water storm management. We're seeing more and more like cities in the UK have having 13% more rainfall per year. So what a green roof does, or what living walls would do an exterior, acts as a carbon sink, right? It's absorbing the CO2. And I know we talk about like deep tech, it's photosynthesis. So those plants are continuing to grow out. They're continuing to sequester carbon year after year, and they're also creating oxygen. We're seeing this with Milan. We're seeing this with Singapore, again, UK. It's all really with, I'd say, relatively in its infancy, but the technology hasn't been built to scale across nationally or internationally. And so I think that for us becomes a really exciting point. Kind of going back to Matthew's question of what the TAM is. There's no company that's even scaling nationally. You can't do that without having the technology. Otherwise, you have to have a crazy overhead just to maintenance these products. But yes, the calculations will be part of the ESG dashboard. We're still in demo, and we're still kind of leaning towards really our partners, how they are using that data. Some of them are seeing it as really being almost like tenant driven as part of the space, as part of their green premiums. Others are probably, let's hold them more accountable to their ESGs. So we're kind of doing almost like a consulting approach, understanding that, and then working with third parties to verify our data.
What's your sales model and go-to-market? How do you plan to scale this up? I know you talked a bit about partners, but it does seem like a bit of a one-off kind of sales pitch for every building, for every campus, for every Google Plex, etc.
Oh, that's a good point. So what we did is we actually started with a turnkey product. So COVID, talk about a great time to develop a workplace product. When those logos of Nike or Google or JP Morgan, you kind of name it industrious, is we created a turnkey product that they could sell into the office. So we really think for our market is, I'll use the Willis Tower as an example here. So we work with EQ Office, right? They have a green roof. They have 2 Model Zs, one in the amenity space, one is part of their employee space. Now their tenants can go into this for just this product, the Model Z, and have as part of the build out. So we think of each property as having multiple different product ecosystems as part of it. And then for us, what's really, I know we're like software, what is the software? It's just all hardware I'm seeing. Once we're part of the built environment, we have in our LTV model 5 years conservatively, but it's probably closer to the lifetime of that built space. So let's say 10, 20 years is where we think that ultimately that client's going to be, because they're held to this technology, this software. It's already part of the space. And we're finding that with just renewals. Again, 15 months ago, so we have 136,000. We're not seeing any churn. A lot of it too is because that's part of the I would say the difficulty of selling it is they know that they have to have this contract to renew it. So it becomes part of the building's operations or the client's office operations.
Do you see net growth then from individual clients, then rolling it out in new places or new walls, et cetera? So you, instead of having churn, possibly have negative churn?
I gotta be honest, I've never been asked that. I don't think I fully understand either.
Like
so
if Google, if you get this set up with Google, Google's got it working on 2 buildings. Google owns a lot more than 2 buildings. As they start to like it, maybe they roll it out to more and more buildings, or to larger kind of square footage, or however you measure that, of the said buildings.
Yeah, I still don't think I understand it. That's a great question. Not to you, I haven't heard that. But I guess maybe, hopefully this answers it, is when we look at those large property owners, or let's use Google, we find it usually they're maybe it's in a new space or they're renovating, and then they're beginning to roll it out across portfolio. That's definitely where we're at now in kind of our life cycle. So I wouldn't see that as, yeah, I think we're kind of understanding that. But what we do know, at least today, is on average, clients are ordering 2 to 3 units, and it's becoming part of a portfolio discussion. Maybe this would answer it, I guess, is on the, we have everyone purchase up front. So it's all purchased up front. Even the subscription, we have it purchased annually. So right off the bat, we're making money. As larger, we have some instances where we have 3 Model Zs and NDA for a very large architect and developer in San Jose. That would also just be part of like a larger rollout. But we'd have discussions. We'd have it all paid up front, maybe similar to what you would see furniture, if it is part of that larger renovation or construction, the construction budget. Did that answer it, Matt? I got to get back with a better answer to that, but
I think it's more that you're too early to have a good answer for that in terms of how you do grow and scale. Kind of like using Slack with one team versus scaling it out across the entire organization.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's driven usually with the ESG team or the VP of tech, because a lot of them, right? A lot of these LPs, real estate LPs, are being held to kind of the fire. Everyone has their ESG net zero initiatives. It was set in 2020. Now they're getting questions from investors. How are we actually going to achieve these? So they're looking for decarbonization technologies. Green roofs is already something they're doing in the buildings. They can understand that data and implement and roll it out. That becomes very, very valuable.
Manuela, Paul, Matt, any last questions, folks?
I'm good. Thank you.
Join us. We're going to see more and more cities. We are already. So thank you for your time, and thank you for giving me a platform to pitch.
Absolutely. I hope you get a bunch of investor inbound. That's the goal of this. And now we've reached the last segment of the startup tank. We were talking kind of food and hydroponics. Starting to get a little late. If you're in Europe, you're probably starting to get hungry. Now it's time for us to wrap things up with our startup of the night. And for that, we each pick 1-2 companies that were kind of our favorite and see if we can find some consensus on the most promising to invest in, or to set up a meeting with, or that we see the biggest upside for. And since Matt's unmuted, Matt, do you want to go first?
I came into this thinking it was going to be hard to find one that I really thought was going to be a breakout. Now I find myself thinking I want every one of these ones to succeed. So I don't have a great answer for you yet. I got to noodle on this a little bit.
Always noodling. Very good. Manuel or Paul, you want to go next, or should I take it away?
Yeah, I'll probably pick NTP Technologies, and I'm maybe slightly biased here because I am in the food system space, and obviously that's where they're playing. But I see a huge potential on reducing the emissions from fertilizer, obviously. I do think that maybe the description of the competition could have been slightly more like in depth, but that's something I'll be curious to, continue the conversation afterwards. But definitely if I have to pick one to continue the discussion, that would be my choice. But I agree with what Matt just said. All of the companies were extremely interesting and doing great work in the climate space. So congratulations to all of them, all the participants tonight.
Yeah, everybody that pitched was doing great things, and definitely congrats. But at the same time, we got to pick a startup of the night. Paul, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would have to go with NTT as well. I really like just kind of, how they've substantiated themselves in terms of, the patents that they have. The go-to-market is extremely clear. I think they're solving a really big problem that has like a direct, economical impact ubiquitously. So that would be my choice. All of the startups, all of the founders were wonderful though.
Yeah, everybody for pitching. Thank you very much. I probably was lean NTP's way as well with John. I like what Ripplfect is doing as well, because they've seemed to have gotten some pretty good traction with almost no marketing or effort, which tells me they have a solid system in place. Now the question is, can they really build that into a business and build the defensibility, which is tough in the consumer space and especially tough in this space. But John, thanks for pitching. Thanks for coming on. Everyone, thanks for sharing what you're doing. Thanks for doing what you're doing. This has been the Startup Tank. If you saw someone pitch, it's generally first name at emailaddress.com. And if that doesn't work, then always the info or the contacts is a good way to get it in touch. Paul, we'll let you go first. Where's the best place for people to find you and more about the fund?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Where should people and who should reach out to you?
Yeah, best way to catch me is on LinkedIn, or you can go to my personal website. It's pretty easy. Paul Claxton, CLAXTON. So paulclaxton.io. And then if you go down into about the middle of my site, you'll see all my brands. You'll see the fund. You'll see my technology accelerator and so forth.
Awesome, Matt.
Matt at anthro.ventures is my email address. There's a sign up form on our website too, anthro.ventures. That's probably the easiest way to get to me, because it doesn't just come to me and my inbox is madness. And hit me up on LinkedIn. Most of the people have already here. Happy to talk to anybody that pitched tonight.
Manuela, you're up.
So to me, it's also Manuela at trellisroad.com, Manuela with double L. Email is definitely a good way to get a response. If you connect me with LinkedIn, and I love getting inbounds there, please do just leave a message giving some context, and I'd love to connect and speak and learn more about what you're doing. Even more so if you're working in climate and especially in the food system.
Very cool. And folks, it's forward.vc. We invest in companies that move the world forward. The number 4 award.vc. It's Matt at forward.vc. There you can find our climate VC database, our climate investor and climate founder Slack communities. Great place to connect. We've got a bunch of other free resources and goodies, and you can apply to pitch on the Startup Tank. We do this every 2 weeks. If you haven't subscribed already, thestartuptank.com. You can find all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, Substack, basically anywhere you could find us. Subscribe, leave a review. It's really helpful for us. And most importantly, it helps these founders that are pitching get more exposure and traction, investors, interest, business, etc. So startuptank.com, leave a review, folks. And yeah, I will let you all get on with your day, get on with building a better world, and hopefully having some dinner for some of us. So talk to you later, folks. Cheers.
Bye, Matt.